Water parks continue to push the boundaries of human endurance with absolutely nerve-wracking ideas and dangerous pools where people can drown. So take a deep breath, because it's time that we visit the 15 most dangerous swimming pools and wave pools. Number 15. Deep Dive Dubai. Dubai is probably most famous for being the site of the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, but it's now also where you'll find the deepest swimming pool ever built, Deep Dive Dubai. It opened in September of 2021 and at its lowest point plunges a frightening 196 feet or 60 meters below the surface. At 4 times the total size of any other dive pool in the world, it takes 3.7 million gallons of water to fill it, which is the equivalent of 6 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And the developers had to be creative in the way that they channel natural heat from the outside of the building to ensure all the water is kept at a constant 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Deep Dive Dubai is far more than just a hole filled with water, though. It's also an underwater film studio with a state-of-the-art media suite on site. And large parts of the pool have been themed, too, so divers can explore sunken apartments and play an underwater arcade. There's even a number of speakers and lights fitted throughout to allow the vibe and ambience to be changed with the flick of a switch. However fun this may be, there is a real risk to swimming there, too, because of how deep it's possible to go. As a precaution, there are 56 cameras positioned throughout the pool that are constantly monitored, and the venue has the most advanced hypobaric chamber in the region, with a capacity of 12 people just in case there's an emergency. Number 14. Shuyiyun Water Park. Wave machines have to be carefully installed into pools to ensure that they generate manageable peaks and troughs in the water that can be precisely controlled. But if there's an error in one of the systems, the results can be catastrophic. The Shuyiyun Water Park in northeast China has only been fully open for a few years, but it's soon become a must-visit destination during the long, hot summers in the region. Amongst all the water slides, plunge pools, and other entertainment on offer, though, is the most popular space, the large wave pool. It's often seen packed full of people in rubber rings, and on a fateful hot July day in 2019, the world saw just how wrong things could go. In the mid-afternoon, the machine responsible for creating gentle waves instead formed one that was 10 feet or just over 3 meters high. And this not only sent the swimmers crashing into each other and flipping over, but also threw many of them into the air out of the pool and crashing down onto the concrete surroundings. In total, around 44 people ended up needing medical attention with broken bones and gashes in what was one of the worst wave pool incidents in recent times. The authorities blamed the freak wave on an electrical malfunction that they said had been isolated and fixed, and the pool reopened to visitors just a few days later. But unsurprisingly, it was a while until large crowds returned in the same numbers that they had done before. Number 13. Crocosaurus Cove, Australia. Usually when you're on vacation, the biggest danger you'll face in a swimming pool is a serious case of sunburn or finding the nearest bar to quench your thirst. But for travelers in the tropical city of Darwin, which is on the coast of Australia's Northern Territory, there's a pool that's so treacherous you're only allowed to enter while surrounded by a thick perspex barrier. That's because this attraction, which is located at Crocosaurus Cove, allows guests to get in the water with a 16-foot-long saltwater crocodile. And as soon as it realizes their people are in there with it, it'll launch into a frenzy. Up to 2 swimmers at a time can brave the experience, and if they can stomach it, spend 15 minutes in the cage of death, during which time they'll see the croc's full ferociousness up close. With a 3-ton bite force, there'll be moments when you wonder whether the transparent cage will be able to withstand the attack, and there have been several incidents in the Cove's history when things have gone wrong, although fortunately no guests have ever been harmed. Number 12. Siam Park. Located on the Spanish island of Tenerife, Siam Park is one of the leading water resorts in the world. It was built at a cost of around $60 million by a company that specializes in water parks from Thailand and so has a Thai theme throughout, from its numerous slides, food outlets, and entertainment venues. It's so large that it actually has the biggest collection of Thai-themed buildings outside of Thailand itself, and the owners made sure their new investment opened with a massive claim to fame, the most powerful wave pool in the world. Built by Murphy's Waves, the Wave Palace is a seriously impressive pool, but at the same time, one where you'll have to keep your wits about you to avoid injury. The machinery is able to generate waves that measure up to 10 feet or 3 meters high and can be programmed to produce different types of waves too, such as long runners and rollers, even ones that run the full width of the pool, ones that move from side to the other, and an A-frame that splits in the middle. Normally the pool is open to swimmers, and while the full height waves are way too dangerous for when people are in the water, they still reach far higher than you'll see elsewhere. But it's when surfers take to the pool that it really comes into its own. Number 11. Hirfe el Agua. Set within the hilly San Lorenzo-Albaradas region of Mexico is a unique set of travertine rock formations that are some of the most spectacular but dangerous natural pools in the world. Made up of 2 rock shelves which raise 300 feet or 90 meters above the ground, there's a series of natural springs at the top that have over thousands of years deposited minerals in a way that makes them look like a frozen waterfall. It's the pools at the top, freshly fed by the springs, that have become the biggest tourist attraction in the region though, and evidence suggests that people have been visiting the site since ancient times. The temperatures there range between 72 and 81 degrees Fahrenheit, but those tempted into the mineral-rich and warm waters have to face an inherent danger. The edge of at least one of the pools leads perilously close up against the cliffside, with a huge drop to the cavern floor on the other side. It's not known if anyone's ever been unfortunate enough to slip over the other side, and if you can get behind the vertigo-inducing view, it is an astonishing viewpoint across the landscape, unlike anything you'll find anywhere else. Number 10. Blue Thunder Wave Pool. First opened in 1986, World Water Park, which is in the West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Canada, is the second largest indoor water park in North America. As you'd expect, there are plenty of slides and activities to choose from, but the main draw is the enormous Blue Thunder Wave Pool, which is by far the biggest indoor wave pool on the planet. Holding 3.3 million gallons, it's so wide that it was built with 6 wave bays to generate the swells and powered by a 1,500 horsepower hydraulic system. For a long time, though, only the central 4 bays have been active, as the combined force of the entire system proved to be way too dangerous for those in the water. Stories from the 80s soon after it opened talk of such intense waves that swimmers were thrown into each other and against the edge of the pool, and this frequently caused accidents such as bloodied noses and broken bones. Even now, the waves can reach a height of 5 feet or 1.5 meters, and during sessions they alternate between 10 minutes on and 5 minutes off. In the evenings, the power is increased as swimmers leave the pool and surf kayak clubs join in the fun, but even then, restrictions are enforced to prevent any further injuries. Number 9. The Azure Pool. On April 26, 1986, the worst nuclear power station disaster the world had ever seen took place in Chernobyl. It released a deadly radioactive cloud that would make the nearby city of Pripyat uninhabitable for ordinary citizens, and this meant the entire region needed to be almost completely evacuated. Some of the buildings were, however, used for a number of years after the disaster by the Chernobyl liquidators, who were the people responsible for trying to clean up and contain the fallout. They needed exercise and leisure activities while they were there, so the Azure Pool, one of the city's indoor swimming venues, remained open until 1998. Because of the filtration of the water in the pool, it was actually regarded as one of the cleanest places in Pripyat following the events in 1986. But there were still far greater risks in taking a dip in that water than any other place around the world. Then in 1998, when the cleanup operation had gone as far as it could, Pripyat was officially abandoned for good, and the Azure Pool was drained of all its water, remaining now as an open pit in the ground, with the building that surrounds it falling into a state of disrepair. For those who decided to visit Ukraine as disaster tourists, the pool became a must-see part of their journey, but there were limits to the amount of time you could spend just looking at it, with fears that radiation levels are still too high and the exposure needs to be kept to a minimum. Number 8. Embassy Garden Sky Pool. With developments in recent decades in the understanding of toughened materials, swimming pools can be built in many more ways than was previously possible, and one of the most popular types that are beginning to be seen around the world are ones with transparent bases that are located on the tops of buildings. Of all of these, the one that's arguably the most impressive, but the most anxiety-inducing too, is the one that was installed at the Embassy Gardens apartment blocks in London, where there's a fully transparent pool that connects the rooftops of 2 different buildings. Known as the Sky Pool, the structure was built in the US before being shipped to the UK and lifted into position by cranes, and it immediately became the most talked about feature of the new development. It's so exclusive that not even all of the residents have access to it, with only those who have paid for the most expensive apartments allowed to the top level. But amongst all the hype, the company behind the design forgot one crucial thing: the typical English weather. While the sky pool may be an exhilarating space during the warm summer months, residents have become disillusioned with it throughout the rest of the year. Its exposed position means the water has to be continually heated at great cost, which is passed on in the service fees. And even then, with constant rain and wind, swimming in the water is an unpleasant experience. Several people have suffered from mild hypothermia after trying to brave those conditions. This pool is ultimately the pure definition of style over substance. Number 7. San Alfonso del Mar. It's impossible to visit the city of Algarrobo on Chile's Pacific coast without noticing this huge swimming pool, known as the Crystal Lagoon, which is part of the San Alfonso del Mar resort. After 5 years of construction and a reported cost of around $3 million, it was finally ready to open in December of 2006 and broke a number of records at the time that it still holds to this day. Covering an area of 20 acres and holding 66 million gallons of salt water that's pumped from the ocean, the pool is 3,323 feet long and up to 115 feet deep. It's therefore, by a long way, the largest artificially built pool in the world, and it's an incredible feat of engineering. The designers, though, were too busy trying to break records than thinking about the practicalities of the pool. And this means now, whenever you see it, it's normally largely empty of people. To begin with, guests were allowed to swim in the water, but it takes too long to react to anyone in difficulty, something that's resulted in several accidents in the first few years, and now swimming is banned throughout. Now the pool is only used for water sports, where it provides a calm, wave-free surface to practice on, compared to the unpredictable ocean it looks out over. But even that's a tough sell, because it takes away one of the elements that makes most activities like these fun in the first place. Number 6. The Wave, Bristol. Surfing is one of the most popular water sports around the world, but if you aren't lucky enough to live near a beach that offers regular waves to challenge yourself on, then it's tough to keep active participation. Technology is now allowing companies to build artificial wave lagoons designed specifically for surfing and other sports, as opposed to swimming, and one of the most impressive and powerful of all is located in Bristol, England. Known as the Wave Bristol, the $30 million project is a full inland surfing destination that used wave garden technology to produce up to 1,000 waves per hour, which is close to one wave every 10 seconds. The power can be adjusted to create peaks measuring between 1.5 and 6.5 feet high, and there are 6 different surfing zones that in total mean as many as 80 users can be in the surf at once. What's clever about this facility is that all of the electricity it uses is renewable and is sourced locally, and this doesn't take away from its performance at all. The sheer power it's able to produce is an inherent safety risk, though, and while there haven't been any major accidents since it opened in 2019, the operators are being highly vigilant when it comes to how close surfers, particularly amateurs, get to one another, because they are all too aware of how potentially dangerous things could become. Number 5. Bronte Rock Pool. In eastern Sydney, Australia, there's a small suburban beach called Bronte, which is around 1.2 miles to the south of the more famous Bondi Beach. Of course, most people who visit will go there to sun themselves on the sand or swim in the ocean, but for those who don't want to battle the waves or who are fearful of the wildlife they may encounter, there's also a 124-foot-long ocean pool. Built into the sandstone cliffs at the south end of the beach in the late 1880s, there's a concrete wall with a walkway along the edge that separates it from the ocean. The pool itself is filled with fresh water from the ocean, and this is partly why it can on occasions be extremely dangerous. If you're looking for a calm swimming experience, it's best to visit at low tide, but it's when high tide begins that things get interesting. During this period, only experienced swimmers are allowed in the pool because the waves can begin to crash up against and over the barrier. It can suddenly get intense with very little warning, and when the tide is high and there are particularly choppy conditions, the pool gets completely overwhelmed. Number 4. Nemo 33. First opening in May of 2004, Nemo 33 was the culmination of a dream by diver and traveler John Biernaerts to create a venue that was a safe way to learn and practice deep diving without the added risks of doing so in the ocean. With a maximum depth of 113 feet, it held the record as being the deepest man-made pool on Earth for 10 years, and was the inspiration for the newer designs that have since gone even deeper. Featuring several artificial caves at varying depths and filled with 660,000 gallons of fresh filtered spring water, the pool is kept at a constant 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which means you're able to reach the depths without the need for a dry suit. It welcomes divers of all abilities, although safety precautions are extremely strict because of the potential of encountering difficulties, particularly the risk of suffering from decompression sickness after diving to the very bottom. Everyone who goes in must therefore be a certified diver and be accompanied by a dive buddy. And even with this, there have been several times when emergency rescues have been needed. For those not wanting to take on the challenge but still want to see what's hidden within the water, Nemo 33 also offers a number of viewing windows from the lower levels of the surrounding building, meaning the safest way to see it is from the comfort of one of the cafeterias. Number 3. Siam Park City. Siam Park City is a huge water park which spans more than 120 acres in the Khan Nao Yao district of Bangkok, Thailand, and it's the oldest and most extensive venue like it in Southeast Asia after first opening in 1975. There's plenty to do there, from roller coasters and water slides, but one of the most popular is its wave pool. Covering an area of almost 150,000 square feet, it for a long time held the record as being the biggest wave pool on Earth. Tens of thousands of people visited the park each year, and there's often barely any room in the water to squeeze in on particularly hot days. This only adds to the potential danger because it's almost impossible to see the waves approaching and judge on how you'll prevent yourself from being plunged into the water. The park itself doesn't have a spotless safety record after several incidents on some of the other rides. While this isn't too unusual for a place that's been open for more than 40 years, it does suggest that some of the infrastructure is aging, and wave pools are often where issues occur when this is the case. Number 2. Marina Bay Sands Pool. The Marina Bay Sands Hotel is a prominent feature on the Singapore skyline, mainly because the three main buildings have a huge, seemingly floating sky park sitting on top of them. This is the entertainment center of the complex and is where you'll find what's undoubtedly the most insane place to swim in the world, a 478-foot vanishing edge infinity pool. That makes it almost the size of 3 Olympic swimming pools and by far the largest of its kind at that height. Holding 380,000 gallons, it was built using 422,000 pounds of stainless steel. It's truly a bizarre experience being able to swim up to the edge of the pool and look out across the city while you're 57 floors above the ground. And if it's possible to suffer vertigo while you're in water, then this is the place where it'll happen. Number 1. Action Park Tidal Pool. Action Park, which was in the Vernon Township of New Jersey, became renowned in the late 70s and 80s as a summer water park that wasn't exactly strict on its safety protocols. One of the reasons for this was that most of the attractions were designed by the park owners, so were completely unique, but even those that were based on tried and tested technology had their own issues. Action Park first opened its tidal pool in 1981, and it measured 100 feet by 250 feet. With a capacity of up to 1,000 people, the waves were generated for 20 minutes at a time and could reach a height of over 3 feet. The problem with the pool, though, was it wasn't immediately clear that it was far deeper at one end than the other. The lifeguards called it the grave pool because of the number of rescues they had to perform, with as many as 30 guests needing to be saved each weekend, compared to the handful you'd normally expect in a whole summer season. 3 people are also known to have drowned in the pool, along with countless more who have suffered injuries from crashing into other people, making this, without a doubt, the most dangerous wave pool that's ever been open to the public. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.